If you're overloaded and stressed out in your life, you probably need to simplify. We've been talking about that over the last few episodes here on this show. And if you're going to simplify your life, then there's probably no more important word in your vocabulary than no. My guest today says when you learn to say no, it frees your mind and your time to focus on the things that are really important to you. Joe Calloway is going to help us learn to let go and say no on today's One Simple Thing.
It's time to build a better business by building a better you. This is One Simple Thing.
Hey there, welcome back again to the One Simple Thing podcast. Dave Kirby with you as we dive into another exciting show here with Joe Calloway. Joe's been a speaker, a coach, and an author for over 30 years now. He's a member of the National Speakers Association Hall of Fame. His latest book is called Keep It Simple, and it will do exactly that, help you pare down your life to the things that really, really matter to you. Ease up on the stress, get more focus, gain more concentration and productivity, and just make life overall one of more satisfaction when you're really focused on the things that are most important. So pick up your copy. Again, it's called Keep It Simple. It's available by clicking on the banner ad when you go to OneSimpleThingOnline.com. Let's get into the show. Joe, thanks for being back here with me again today on the One Simple Thing podcast.
Thank you. It is a pleasure to be here. I wouldn't want to be doing anything else right now.
Well, I appreciate that. Keep It Simple is the name of the book. Unclutter your mind to uncomplicate your life. And was it intentional that we start with the mind and then the life follows?
Yeah, well, I think so. I'm not too particularly hung up on the order, but it does seem to be kind of a logical progression that you got to start with your own thoughts because your thoughts become your reality. And so, yeah, I think it's pretty purposeful.
Yeah, I'm just thinking I can clean off my desk, but if my mind is still scattered, it's just going to end up back in that same space, right?
Yeah, it is. Although, you know what? Maybe there's something to be said for if you want to unclutter your mind, maybe start with your desk.
Well, that's true.
Seriously, it could be that if you come into my wife she did a major, a huge cleaning out of her closet. And she told me about a week after, she said, I have felt like a different person ever since I cleaned the closet. She said, I walk in there and honestly, she literally used the word life. She said, it feels like I've kind of got a different life. She said, I'm amazed by how powerful that was.
We had a lady on the show, Marsha Ramsland, several months ago, and she's a professional organizer.
Yeah.
And she talked about even something simple like making your bed, right? It's just like, She said, I get up every morning and I make the bed. And it's not because, anybody's going to see it or whatever. It's just because in my own mind, it feels like I started the day with getting something accomplished.
Well, you know what? Research has shown that particularly for certain personality types, and this tends to be most people, there's tremendous productivity and power in routine. And I think it's very purposeful to get clarity on your own rhythms. And an example of that would be, for me, Dave, I know without question, my most creative time of day is before the sun comes up. And I love to get up. This morning I got up at 4:30. Because that's when I do my best thinking. I love that time of day. I get a tremendous amount of really productive stuff done. And I save the late afternoon, later in the day, for the kind of the mundane, writing checks and paying bills and the emails that are not urgent. And then at night, when other people just blossom, oh man, I'm brain dead. I just want to chill out. I want to read a book or just hang out with my kids. And some people are just the opposite. But I think all of this kind of getting clarity is very, very helpful for people.
Well, and what we want to talk about today is that it's not just what we do, but it's also what we choose to not do, right? Part of that creating space in our lives has to be learning to say no to certain things.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, I think you can make a case that that's the most important part of taking constructive action. Listen, let's just try this thought on. the most important element in getting things done is saying no. Now, a lot of people would say, but wait, that can't be right. If you're going to get a lot of things done, you need to say yes to everything, don't you? Well, let's think about that for a second. If you say yes to everything, if you put everything in the category of being most important or super important, gang, you're not going to get anything done. You're going to flail around in 100 different directions. And I really have become a tremendous disciple of learn what to say no to. It frees you to do the most important things, which is the most satisfying, the most productive. It's how you make the greatest contribution, all that stuff. Learning to say no, it's strong, strong medicine.
Well, you mentioned a quote, or at least a concept that Warren Buffett
I love it.
Talks about, and that's that very successful people say no to almost everything.
Yeah, the whole quote is, he said, the difference between successful people and very successful people is that very successful people say no to almost everything. And there are a lot of people that will ruffle their feathers, and they'll say, I just don't buy that. But I totally buy it, because Buffett's point is very successful people have gotten clarity on what's important. Very successful people, let's go outside of business for a second. See, I believe that the most successful purple people, and I mean that in the broadest sense of the word success. I'm not just talking about money here or business. But if you have a truly successful life and somebody says, hey, you want to come to the party Thursday night? There are people that say yes to everything, and they'll say yes. But the truly successful person might think to themselves, the party sounds like fun, and I've committed to be with my kids that night, so I'm going to say no. I'm going to say no to the party so I can say yes to my kids. Or I'm going to say no to this project over here because the project that's right in front of me, I've already decided in advance is most important. And that, by the way, is another concept that is incredibly helpful, is decisions that are made in advance. That's the whole concept behind goal setting, is you decide in advance what's most important, then you know what to say no to. You say, no, I'm not going to spend my money on that because I've already decided in advance that this is more important to me, so I'm going to save my money for this.
Well, it goes back to what we've talked about in the past couple of episodes here, right? It's narrowed it down to, this is my purpose here. These are my 3 things I'm going to get right every day, and I let that be my filter for what I say no and what I say yes to.
Yeah, I that's been really helpful for me in terms of my work. I get, just like everybody in my business, I get different kinds of offers to go speak, for example, at different functions, and I've come up with a pretty fine filter, a pretty narrow window of what I'll say yes to. And that has ultimately been really good for my business because I do the jobs that I'm supposed to be doing. And I don't do the jobs that I'm not supposed to be doing. And over the years, I've learned what I'm not supposed to be doing. Another filter is I don't want to work with jerks. And there are people that will contact my office, and the job on paper looks pretty good, but the person is just such a goofball that I think, no, not making it through the filter. I'm not going to take this job because I don't want to spend time with this person. Now, I'm fortunate to be in a position to be able to say no, and I wish I'd started saying no to more stuff a whole lot sooner, because I'm telling you, Dave, it's not only good for your life, it's good for your business.
Well, and I'm thinking about the things that we should say no to that maybe aren't necessarily business. They're not necessarily money related.
Sure.
Maybe it's emotions. Maybe it's, certain frames or states of mind that we need to say no to, right? I need to say no to anger in my life or those sorts of things.
One of my things that I'm really working on, and I find myself deleting a lot of potential posts on social media and deleting emails, is I've said, I'm going to be honest and I'm going to speak my mind, but I'm always going to be respectful, and I'm sick of being negative. No more negative posts on social media. And that has been, because I've made that a real commitment, I'm telling you, I'll write a 2-paragraph rant, and I'll look at it and I'll go, no, this isn't constructive. This is just me being negative or making somebody else wrong. And I delete it and go about my business.
Well, especially during the election season, man, I did that like 3 times a day, probably.
Yes, absolutely. But that's really helped me not only be more productive and constructive, I feel better. Yeah. I got sick of being negative. Not that I was a negative force on social media, but I knew when it felt like to me I wasn't being constructive, I was being negative or just argumentative or just making somebody else wrong. And I've gotten a whole lot better of doing what I think is one of the most powerful forces in the universe, letting it go. Just let it go.
Yeah, and you talk about that a lot. That's kind of a mantra in that chapter of the book, which is let it go. Learn to let it go. So what do you want us to do today to start letting things go?
I wish people would come up with 3 areas or categories or things that they, need to let go of or stop doing or start saying no to. And I'll tell you a couple of good places to start. Are there any people that you need to let go of? And this can be a tough one, or just stop hanging out with, because you know in your heart of hearts that this is not helping your life to hang out with that person. Or are there things that you need to start saying no to? For me, years ago, I thought, I say yes to way more social engagements than I need to. I'll bet you everybody listening can relate to the feeling of you go to something and after being there for 10 minutes, you're thinking to yourself, why did I say yes to this? I knew I wasn't going to have a good time. I knew it wasn't going to be a good thing. Why did I say yes? Well, back it up and start saying no, and you can say no respectfully. But that's my action challenge. What are 3 things or areas where you need to start saying no?
One more question here, because I just was thinking about it as you were talking. What if I've already overcommitted myself? Is there any shame, or is there a reason why I shouldn't sit down maybe with some people and say, you know what, I know I committed to this, but I just don't have time, and I'm sorry that I overcommitted to this, but I'm going to have to move on. Is that a right thing or a wrong thing to do, in your opinion?
Well, I think there's a lot of it depends factors in there. I think it's a great thing to do. Certainly if you do it respectfully, if you understand that there could be some a little negative feedback or blowback from that, negative in the fact that it could be a little unpleasant because they're not going to like it. And I would also say, if I've committed to do something and I withdraw that commitment and it's going to be hurtful or damaging in any way, look, I'm going to go ahead and keep the commitment. Yeah. But that's a great thing to suggest that people do, Dave. I'm really glad you brought that up, is to have the courage to look at some of the commitments you've made and see if there are any of them that you say, you know what, I need to withdraw that.
Yeah, and I like the filter of, is this going to leave them high and dry? Is this going to be fair to them? If it's not, then
that's the perfect word. That's
down.
The perfect word is being fair.
Yeah, love that. Joe, thank you so much for spending time with us today. I would really encourage everybody to grab the book. It's an easy read, but a very profound read at the same time. And in keeping with your concept of keeping it simple, it's a simple book, but could really give you some nuggets of truth that could change your life. So, Joe, thanks again for being back with us today.
Thank you, Dave. It was an absolute pleasure.
It's Joe Calloway. Really appreciate him being on the show with me again today. The book, again, is called Keep It Simple. You can find it by going to our website, onesimplethingonline.com. Click on the banner ad you'll see on the right side of the page and get yourself set up with a copy of the book. You won't regret it. It's full of wisdom that Joe has earned over his 30-plus years of coaching and speaking and training others. So make sure you check it out. Again, it's called Keep It Simple. You'll see the banner ad on the right side of the page when you go to onesimplethingonline.com. I'm Dave Kirby. Thanks for listening. I'll see you again next time here on the One Simple Thing podcast.